Hello and welcome back to Something Z, and welcome to Naruto at the 6 Tales Part 3. Last time on the What If, Team 7 passed the first phase of the exams, and I forgot to go over this in the previous part, but Naruto after the mission at the Land of Waves trained on how to use the 6 Tails' power, so now he can go into the form he turned into on the bridge for around 30 minutes, with a wait time of around 3 hours. So now let's jump back into the What If. So it's been less than a minute since the main examiner said that they all passed, but before they again could celebrate or talk to their teammates, a window in the room breaks. And when it breaks, they look at what broke it, and it was a woman. But before anyone could say anything, she announces that she is the second examiner, and that the next phase of the exams will be at the Forest of Death the next day. Then she jumps out the window she just broke. So we skip to the next day, and when Anko believes that all the examinees are there, she explains the rules of the Forest of Death. And while she was explaining the rules, Naruto mocked her, and the instructor after hearing this threw a kunai at him, which he almost completely dodged, but he wasn't able to move his head fast enough, so he got a cut on his face. Then after she threw the kunai, she continued on, and when she was done explaining the rules, she gave every team a scroll, and the scroll Team 7 got was a Heaven Scroll. Then they were placed at a gate. Then when everything seemed to be ready, Anko began the countdown. And when the countdown ended, Team 7 ran into the forest, with Naruto still in his base form since he didn't want to waste his power. But after around half an hour, Naruto had to go pee, so he ran deeper into the forest, so he couldn't be seen. And after a couple of minutes, Naruto ran back to the group. But after just a glance at Naruto, Sasuke threw a kunai at him, which Naruto barely dodges. The Naruto then laughs and says that Sasuke is more talented than he expected. Then the Naruto gets covered in smoke, and when the smoke dissipates, the person that used to be Naruto shows himself to be a random enemy shinobi from the Hidden Rain. The shinobi then asks how did Sasuke know that he wasn't his teammate, and Sasuke responds by saying Naruto has a scratch on his face from earlier, and that he didn't have one. Then the two fight, with Sasuke winning the fight, but right before they were able to capture the shinobi, he sunk into the ground, and the two weren't able to find him. And shortly after Sasuke beat the enemy shinobi, Naruto came back from the bathroom. Team 7 then came up with a password so nothing like this happens again, with the password being the same as it was in the canon. But right after they came up with the password, a sudden powerful gust of wind comes out of nowhere, and it launches the three getting away from each other. And when Naruto lands, he is distorted, so he wasn't able to react in time when a snake swallowed him whole. But when Naruto was swallowed, he made around 10 clones in the snake, and he used some of the 6 Tails' chakra, which boosts the power of all the Narutos. And after a minute, the Narutos were able to bust out of the snake. Then when Naruto was sure that there weren't any more snakes, Naruto got rid of all the clones and he deactivated the 6 Tails' chakra. Then he ran to where he think the rest of his team was. So now we jump to Sasuke and Sakura, who after a couple of minutes were able to find each other. And while they were talking about what they were going to do next, Naruto came into view. But before he got too close, Sasuke asked the Naruto for the password, and the Naruto said the password correctly. But that's what made Sasuke believe that it was a fake. So he threw another kunai, but Naruto dodged the attack. Then Naruto starts to get covered in the smoke, and when the smoke dissipates, it's revealed to be another enemy shinobi. Then the enemy shinobi takes the scroll out of their bag. Then they swallow the scroll whole, and says that if they want the scroll, they will have to kill them. Then Sasuke and Sakura get visions of their death via kunai to the head. And when the visions end, the two are paralyzed with fear, and after less than a minute of the two standing in place, the enemy shinobi throws a kunai at their heads. But right before the kunais hit either one of them, Sasuke, as a last resort to gain control of his body, stabs himself in the leg, and when he stabbed himself, he focused on the pain, which gave him the ability to move. So he pushed himself and Sakura out of the way, barely avoiding the kunais. Then Sasuke grabs Sakura and he tries to get the two out of there, but after some time, Sasuke comes to the conclusion that he can't run away, so he offers the shinobi their team scroll. But when Sasuke offered up the scroll, Naruto finally found them, and he heard Sasuke's deal. And when Sasuke was done talking about a trade, they heard yelling, and when they look higher into the trees, they see a mad Naruto, who then asks, and I quote, "What the hell is wrong with you?" Then Naruto gathers as much of the 6 Tails' chakra as he could, so now he is transformed into the state he was on the bridge, and when he was done changing, he let out a blood-curdling screech. Then he jumped off the tree and he launched himself at Sasuke, and when he landed he grabbed the scroll from Sasuke's hands. Then he put the scroll in his bag, and when he closes his bag he jumps at Orochimaru, and the snake he is currently standing on. And with one powerful punch at the snake's snout, Naruto launches the snake 10 feet down, breaking multiple layers of branches. But before he got too far, Orochimaru was able to toss Naruto into one of the nearby trees. And when the snake landed, he was about eye level to Sasuke, so the snake lunged at Sasuke. But before the snake was able to reach Sasuke, Naruto jumped in front of Sasuke, and with the help of 2 kunais, Naruto held the snake back. So the fight continued, but the moment Orochimaru saw Naruto transform in the forest, he could tell that he was the 6 Tails Jinchuriki. So after some time fighting, the snake was eventually able to grab Naruto in a way he couldn't escape, and the snake brought Naruto closer to Orochimaru, who was preparing to put another seal on Naruto. And when Naruto got close enough, Orochimaru with his flaming fingers hit Naruto in the seal, locking away the 6 Tails' power. and as a side effect of locking away the Six Tails' power, Naruto got knocked out. And with him being no use to Orochimaru, he then threw him off the snake at a height that would have killed him. But Sakura was able to throw a kunai in time, so it caught Naruto's jumpsuit, and it stuck him to a tree, letting him survive the fall. Then Sakura starts to yell at Sasuke about how he isn't doing anything, and how he hasn't done anything but cower for about this whole fight. And after listening to Sakura for a bit, he starts to get fired up with determination. He then charges straight at Orochimaru, and after a bit of fighting, Sasuke eventually launches a fire dragon technique that seems to incinerate Schwar. But after the smoke clears, Schwar is standing tall, with their face partially melted off, and it reveals who it really was, which was Orochimaru. And seeing no need to waste more of his time, Orochimaru decides to leave. But before he leaves, he's able to bite Sasuke in the shoulder by extending his neck, and where he bit Sasuke, there is now a cursed seal. And a couple of minutes after Orochimaru leaves, Sasuke passes out, leaving Sakura to get her two unconscious comrades. And after a bit, Sakura was able to find a tree to hide under, and she treated the injuries that she could. But eventually Team Dosu shows up to challenge Sasuke to a fight, but they couldn't since he was knocked out. After multiple attempts to trap Team Dosu, they get close enough to attack Sakura, but before their attacks hit, Rock Lee comes out of nowhere and he pushes the three away from Sakura. He then declares that he will protect Sakura. Then he charges at the three to fight, which at first he was winning, but at one point during the fight, Rock Lee tried to use a front lotus, which did work, but the drawback from the attack was too much, and the three were able to take advantage of their now weakened opponent, so they were able to defeat Lee. And with Lee out of the picture, Sakura was easily defeated by the three, and the fight between the four ends with Sakura's hair being held by Kin, and in order to free herself, she grabs a kunai and she cuts off the piece of hair that Kin was holding. And the first thing she did after being free was fight one of the enemy shinobi, more specifically Zaku. And after slashing him with a kunai a couple of times, she pinned him to the ground, but Zaku was able to quickly overpower her, and he punched her in the head a couple of times. But before he landed the fourth hit, Team 10, who was watching for a bit of time, ran into the fight to help Sakura. And after a bit of time, the rest of Team Guy appeared ready to help their teammate. But before they could do anything, Sasuke awakens with his curse seal activated, and after some looking around to see what's going on, he notices that Sakura was injured, so he asks who did it, which Zaku raised his hand, and he said that he was the one who did it. So Sasuke, with the help of his new power, attacks Zaku, and eventually he was able to get behind him, and he starts to dislocate both of Zaku's arms. He was going to completely rip them off, but Sakura stopped him right before he could, and after some begging and pleading telling Sasuke to stop, Sasuke's curse seal disappears, and with his energy drained, he falls to the ground. Then shortly after, Dosu grabs his two teammate and he flees. So now we skip a couple of minutes and Naruto finally wakes up, not knowing anything that just happened. And after everyone recovered for a bit, all of the teams split up, with Team 7 staying in the same place. So we skip to the next day, and while Sasuke was going to collect some food, Sakura and Naruto contemplated forging a new scroll, but if they were going to, they needed to read the scroll. So eventually they decided to forge the scroll, so Naruto starts to slowly open it. But before he could completely unravel the scroll, Kabuto arrives to stop them, and they do know who he is since they met him right before the exams. So after telling Naruto to stop, he wrapped the scroll to how it was before. Then he tells them that whoever looks at the scroll will be unconscious for the rest of the exams. Then he takes them to a team that read their scroll, and they were completely knocked out. Then when Sasuke gets back, he wonders why there is now another person with his two teammates. But after some talking, they agree to let him accompany them to the tower in the middle. So they decide to set out at night, since they could just sneak up on a team and take their scroll without having to fight. So we skip to that night, and when everyone was ready, the four Gettings started to try to find another team to steal from. But after a while, they felt like they weren't going anywhere, and they felt like they were walking in a giant circle. But shortly after they discussed the genjutsu, a whole group of clones came out of the ground, and they all looked like the person Sasuke fought at the start of the exams. Then they started to fight them, and after some time they found out that they weren't physical. So in order to draw out the real people, Naruto made around 30 clones, with 3 of them transforming into Sasuke, Sakura, and Kabuto. Then Naruto's clones fought the other clones, and while the clones were fighting, the real team was hiding under a tree. So after hours of the clones fighting, the real ranged shinobi believe that Team 7 is tired, so they come out to try and finish them off. But when they reveal themselves, all of the clones get destroyed, and the real Team 7 and Kabuto come out of hiding. So then the two groups fight, with Team 7 winning. But at the beginning of the fight, Naruto tried to tap into the Six Tails' power, but nothing happened. And Sasuke tried to use his chakra, but for some reason, every time he tried to mold his chakra into a jutsu, his whole body would be in serious pain. And at the end of the fight, the group took the team's scroll, making it so they could pass. So after an hour or two of running, they were able to make it to the center tower. And when they made it to the tower, Team 7 split off from Kabuto, since he found his team. So when Team 7 walked into the building, they were told to open the scrolls in the next room. And when they opened the scrolls at the same time, Iruka appeared in a poof of smoke, who then congratulated them for making it so far. And after some talking, he tells them to go to the next room. and when they do, they see Team 10, 8, Guy, Dosu, and 2 of the 3 Sand Shinobi asleep, and the one person that was awake in that room besides them was the guy with red hair and black circles around his eyes. And that's where I'm going to leave the what if. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope to see you next time on Something Z.